Let me just start again. Hey guys. Hello, beautiful being that is watching this right now. Welcome to the first episode ever of Artists as Prophets, my new podcast. The reason why I'm making this podcast is because I want to have a place where I'm able, and like a community that I'm able to share my findings, my spiritual findings, but also my creative findings along my journey, along my way. And I just wanted a space to document and also share everything that I've learned and I'm still continuing to learn. The title Artists as Prophets, it comes from an idea that I feel like I had with friends. I feel like we collectively, or someone mentioned, I don't know, maybe this even comes from the internet, but I truly believe that art and artists have the capacity to change people's lives and also bring people into new spaces within themselves that maybe they haven't explored before, or thoughts that they haven't thought of before. I feel like art is so transformative in that way, and has the capacity to, I truly believe, bring us into the next world that a lot of us are looking for. This world no longer serves most of us, and a lot of us are looking for a new world to create together, and I feel like art has a really big part of that. So that's kind of what Artists as Prophets means to me. I believe that art has the capacity to be prophetic. A couple weeks ago, I ran my very first meditation workshop, and I called it Artists as Prophets, and it's definitely going to be a longer series, but I also just really liked this title as the name of this podcast because I feel like that's really what I want to bring to the podcast space and to the internet space. I want to bring this idea. The workshop that I held, it was like a meditation workshop that was also for artists, and it was about bridging personal and collective liberation into the artistic practice and individual artistic practice, and also deepening our connection to our creativity, which is all things that I'm very passionate about. So I want to have this podcast to talk about those things more and delve into the things that I've learned on my journey and I'm continuing to learn as I develop as an artist and as a spiritual being. So yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit like the same things that I talked about at the workshop, and then I'm also going to talk more about ego and also about my week this week and the things that came up for me. I have my notebook here of just things that I wanted to talk about today. So I'm gonna be looking down a little bit to read this. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about what Artists as Prophets means to me. The goal for me for this workshop is for all the listeners to cultivate a deeper understanding of your own creative source, and also to provide tools or just lessons that I've learned that deepens that connection. And I also wanted to just say that this is a space I am opening my heart and my mind and my creative soul to everyone watching, to whoever is welcomed here to watch, and be respectful, but also not as not from a position of I know this, I know everything, and I want to share all that I know. Not so much that, but really to share together and to cultivate together a space that blooms this deepening connection to creativity as a source. So that being said, I have as much to learn from all of you as much as it is in reverse, and I really want to just be able to cultivate a community where we can talk about these things, and it's cool and it's fun, it's cute and it's funny sometimes. So yeah, I want this space, Artists as Prophets, like this podcast, I want this space to uplift, the power of revolutionary art, and not only to deepen everyone, like our own connection to creativity, but also to allow the power of oneness to inform our expression and understanding of life and creation. I truly believe oneness is like the key to everything, and oneness is what is going to get us into this next world that a lot of us are seeking to get to. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there before I start talking about blah 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 blah. Okay, so let's get into that. So for this first episode, as you can tell by the title, I thought it would be a good way to introduce this series, to start with the ego, because I feel like the ego is the one thing that we all, first of all, in the spiritual space, it's always like, ego, you gotta kill that shit, like you gotta get rid of it, you gotta kill it. And unless you are like Jesus Christ himself or Buddha, like we have ego, like we can't really get rid of our ego. It's very, very hard to even get close to like no ego, even the desire to want to kill our ego, that comes from a place of ego, like that comes from our ego, the desire to be like, I don't need my ego, I'm above having an ego, like I need to kill my ego. That itself is your ego talking, so it's not like realistic to just you gotta kill your ego. But like, I think as artists, like collectively, as an artist, as somebody who's like wanted to be an artist my whole life and has been, you gotta get over yourself. Like as artists, we have to get over ourselves, and we have to get over our ego just a little bit. No, not just a little bit, a lot, most of us. I just think we have to get over ourselves. Like, I feel like so much of being an artist, at least if you ask like majority of people, it might sound a little counterintuitive of like, oh, as an artist you're actually supposed to have an ego because that's where you make art from, and most artists have big egos. That's how that's how else you're going to know your art is good, and how else you're going to be confident in yourself and your art if you don't have a big ego. So it seems like a little counterintuitive. There are definitely ways where our ego is like helpful to us, and where our ego guides us, and our ego allows us to know like what we deserve and what we don't deserve. And it's not about like killing the ego completely, but as an artist, the awareness of how our ego takes form and takes shape in how we create art and how we interact with the people around us, I think that part is really important if you want to be an artist if you want to be a revolutionary artist, if you want to be an artist that is aware of collective liberation and aware of, or at least has the desire for their art to get us there. Like, in order for our collective art to get us to the place of liberation and abolition, we need to have an awareness, a very, very clear awareness of our ego, so that it doesn't drive us, because our ego isn't going to get us there. Our ego got us here collectively. Collectively as people, our ego got us to this very moment in time and history. And guys, like, a lot of us, we're not having fun here. It's not it. Okay? Well, this is not it. So we need to have that very clear awareness of our ego in order for our art to actually be revolutionary in the way that it needs to be, and in the way that it's pushing liberation for all and collective abolition and liberation for all of us. So I'm going to talk more about that, but before I talk more about that, I want to talk about like what is fucking art in the first place? What is creativity? What does it mean to be an artist? And what does it even mean to be what is ego? I want to talk about all of that so that we're all also on the same page moving forward, because I feel like these topics are things that like are the basis of like my understanding of the world and how I look at the world. And I'm not always going to get it right. I'm not a perfect person by any means at all, and I do make mistakes, and I do have an ego. So like these things might change slightly in the future, or my opinions in general might change slightly in the future as I learn more information. And there's like people in the back now. Everyone decided to come out on their balcony at the same time. My opinions might change, especially like as I learn more and experience more life. My opinions are totally up to change, So I wanted to also put that out there. Like, I'm not a perfect person, but this is like very foundational for, I think, a lot of my belief system and my ethics, my ethos. Like, this is very foundational stuff that I'm about to share, and I want to like everyone, like, we should be on the same page about that. If before, I wanted to like lay it all out in this episode of the podcast. And things might change in the future slightly, or I might develop more of my ideas around certain things, or I might take back certain things. But for the most part, like, this is the foundational stuff that I'm working with, and that I want to work with you, or I want to talk about, so that we are on the same page. And then in the next episodes, we're like coming from it at the same place. Does that make sense? Like, whatever. I'm over explaining it at this point. There's like music in the background, and one of my neighbors is like doing some construction stuff, so sorry if it's like the sound is like, there's a bunch of things happening, but if anything, that makes it more real, I think. So note to self, I'll record these episodes a little bit earlier in the days next time. Oh yeah, I completely forgot to like actually introduce myself. My name's Flora. My pronouns are they, them, and they, them. No. My name's Flora. My pronouns are they, them. I am a writer, director, filmmaker, and also a death doula. And more to come, I guess, in the future. But yeah, that's like a brief summary of me. I am half Indian, half Nigerian. My mom's Indian, my dad's Nigerian, and I was born in Mumbai. And I actually immigrated to Turtle Island when I was a baby. I was like 2 years old about, and I grew up in Toronto. And I moved to Montreal when I was like, I don't know, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And now I'm here. Yeah, if you want to know anything else about me, you can like comment it or something, and I will maybe bring it up. But I'll also probably talk about myself like a little bit as time goes on, Let's talk about it, guys. Like, let's talk about it. I am a believer that we are all connected to this thing called creativity. I truly believe that we are all connected to creativity, and we all have the capacity to be artists. And to be an artist is literally just to create, to engage in creation, So I think we all have the ability to be artists. But what is creativity? Because I feel like it's not like a clear thing. I want to define it first for myself. Like, this is one of the definitions. I did go to art school. I went to film school. So this is one of the definitions that I picked up at school about what is creativity, and then I added my own I would say spiritual perspective to it, maybe. I view creativity as a channel, I view it as a channel, and to me, I see creativity existing like right here above the head, like above all of our heads. And I see it as a channel that anyone can like tap into at any point if they want to. That's how I see it. I see it as a channel that anyone can tap into at any point if they so desire. I see it as a life force and a driving force for artists. And I see like artists as people who are able to tap into that channel of creativity and tap in and out whenever they want. And that's where their creation and creation comes from. So that's kind of how I see it. I see it as a channel that things go through all the time, at any time, like every single second of the day. And at any point in time, we can tap into that channel as people and as artists. And we can tap into it about anything. You know, you don't have to necessarily be creating art to be creative. You can be creative in the way that you put the groceries in the fridge, you know, by the way that you play Tetris as you're unpacking your groceries in the fridge. You can be creative in the way that you are like ad-libbing to like a song in the shower, or when you're hanging out with friends and it's like an awkward silence and someone starts humming, like that is a creative action, you know. So, or like creative in the questions that you ask people when you're having a conversation with people, or you're talking to someone who's like tired or shy and you're trying to get them to like talk a little bit more. You can be creative in the way you ask questions or the way you answer questions. Like someone asks, or you get the same question every single, you know, time you go to a certain space, you get the same question, and you can be creative in the way that you respond to that question differently. Creativity can come from anywhere. You don't have to be like actually creating art to be creative. So I see it as a channel, and I see it as a life force and a driving force. And the definition of creativity that I feel like makes sense, that I got from film school, is the strong desire or action to get a new or fresh idea or vision out of your mind and into a tangible experience that you can share with people. I'll say it again. The strong desire or action to get a new or fresh idea or vision out of your mind into a tangible experience that you can share with others. So like I said, creativity can be, you know, for anything, but in particularly, it is the driving force and the life force of artists and of art, right? And when we express our creativity, particularly through art and creation of art, when we express our creativity, it leaves us really vulnerable to judgment, you know, because that's kind of the first thing that anyone thinks when they see art. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Why don't I like it? Why do I like it? What's wrong with it? What can be better? It's, you know, it's natural that creative expression leaves us vulnerable to judgment, because that's quite literally what we're doing when we're sharing our creation with others. And it's that vulnerability to judgment where our ego kind of steps up and takes form. So I don't necessarily think that creation itself is like an ego thing, but I do think that that's like this sharing part of creation is where the ego comes in and does its thing. So what is ego if we were to define it? This is the definition that I got of ego from the internet. Ego is a person's self-importance and how they perceive their place in the world. That's your ego. There's also like, you know, super ego or whatever from like philosophy. I took a philosophy class once. I honestly don't remember it in my head, like super ego or idiom or whatever. I don't know. I honestly didn't understand those three terms. Like I know there's like the ego, the super ego, and the idiom, whatever. I don't know. Honestly, like I understand it like in my head, but like to describe it again verbatim like out to you, like I didn't understand it that well. So I'm not gonna talk about There's probably gonna be a lot of more of that, like, in these episodes, because I do burp a lot. So just so you know, I think it's funny and cute, so I like it. That's my ego talking. Okay, sorry. So the ego comes in, and it can come in a few different ways. There's the ego where it's like, oh, I am so good, I'm such an amazing artist, I should win all of the awards, I should get all of the money, I deserve every single thing in the world because my art is so good. That's like one side of it, right? We've all heard this before. And then there's the side of it where also, like, maybe someone's art is really good and it's like amazing. Think like Kendrick Lamar or SZA, like people who do make good art and they have been recognized for it, and they continue to make art and such, right? And when I feel like artists get to this place where they are recognized for their good and strong and powerful art, and they have accolades, then there's a place where it's like, where's the responsibility of the artist? And what is the responsibility of the artist, right? I feel like all artists do have a responsibility to society, to make art that is meaningful, or even if it's not like super meaningful, to make like there's a responsibility to, like, why are you creating art? Who are you trying to share this with? I think the responsibility is on the artist to be like, what is my art actually gonna do? What impact does my art have? Or what impact can my art have? Because I feel like, especially now, especially with music, there's a lot of music that comes out, and there's no like thesis, if that makes sense. There's no like, this is what this art is supposed to do. There's none of that, and I think that a part of the reason why some of these huge artists like Kendrick Lamar and SZA, a part of the reason why some people, including myself, feel a little disappointed in their art, like of the present moment, because the present moment is very charged, right? There's genocides going on, there's a lot of death, there's war, there is a lot of sadness in the world, there's a lot of struggle in the world, there's so much struggle and pain, and especially with the state of America, things feel like they are moving backwards in some ways, right? And so I do think that art and artists, especially popular artists who have these accolades and who have some kind of position of power and authority, I do think there's a responsibility for artists to have a certain level of self-awareness, that they're able to at least support ideas of the revolution, and not just to say like the revolution will never be televised, but to actually support, like, what does the revolution look like? What does the future actually look like? Like, if we were to draw it out ourselves as artists, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? How is our art helping heal people, or helping bring people to the next place, the next phase, the next place that we're trying to go, like, upwards in society? I do think artists do have a responsibility to do that, and that's not to say that responsibility is only on like musicians or artists to do these things, but I do think that the self-awareness of artists is really important in order for artists to like be responsible. Like, I do think artists need to be responsible, especially if they are already like, they've already kind of won. You already have your accolades, you already have your things. I think there is a responsibility to stand up for the community that you claim to represent. And I think the responsibility comes from like the self-awareness, and the self-awareness to not reproduce the violence or replicate the violence, even if it's like small ways. There's a responsibility to not replicate the violence that was impacted, that has impacted, you know, all of the colonized and underdeveloped world. And I think some of these artists like don't have that self-awareness. And there's a really good article written by Ismatu. I forgot her last name, how to say it properly, but y'all know her. She's like amazing, and she made a good a piece of writing called The Black Mythical Artist. I think that's what it is called. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll put it linked below or something. I'll insert it. And this writing, like, I honestly couldn't say it better myself. You should just go read it. And she brings up like Nina Simone, and how Nina Simone, she didn't know that she didn't think she was doing it perfectly. She didn't think she was doing it amazingly, but she had the self-awareness to know that she had a responsibility to talk about certain things and talk about the things that were happening in America that she didn't agree with and that she didn't accept. You know, there are always going to be things that happen in our lives that we don't accept and we don't agree with, but then what are we going to do about that? I think that's the more important thing, more important than just being like, yeah, I don't accept this, I don't agree with this, I'm not for children dying or any of that. There's one thing to say that, and it's really, really easy to say that, and it's another thing to actually have the self-awareness to know, okay, what power do I have to do anything about it? And maybe you don't have any power, but maybe you don't have more power than to just say it. Maybe the most powerful thing that you can do is just to talk about it. And I feel like even that, a lot of artists are not doing it right now. So, yeah, just read that. I do think artists have a responsibility, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So that's like kind of one place that ego comes out in. And I also use kind of big examples of like artists that already have their accolades and stuff. But I want to come back down from that for a second. I want to come down from that and talk about artists that are more on the ground, right? Creative expression leaves us vulnerable to judgment. And not only does our ego have the ability to like blind us from like our responsibility or our self-awareness of like how we're actually acting as artists and what our responsibility is as artists. Ego is also has the ability to scare us into not sharing or not thinking that we're good enough, and to be overcritical of ourselves. And I what I mean by that is that I think a lot of people don't realize that even when we are getting down on ourselves and we are putting ourselves down and we're saying that we're not deserving, we're not good enough, and we're constantly being just overcritical of ourselves, that is also ego. That is also our ego that makes us think that we're not good enough, that we're still thinking of ourselves. Whenever we are overcritical of ourselves, we're still thinking of ourselves. So that's still us indulging in our ego by being overcritical of ourselves and being judgmental of ourselves. We're acting as if we don't deserve to be artists or to create, or whatever our internal narrative is, where we're getting down on ourselves and we're like, oh, woe is me, whatever that internal narrative that we build to dog down on ourselves and put ourselves down, that's still coming from a place of ego, where we are thinking we are so important that we have to think about how much we hate ourselves. That's it. That's ego. It's egotistical to think all day about how we don't deserve something, or how we're terrible humans, or whatever. That's still egotistical. That's still our ego speaking, because we think that we're so important. We have such a high self-importance that we're thinking of ourselves that much. You know, even if we're dogging down on ourselves, and like our logical brain doesn't think we're that important, if we spend so much time thinking of ourselves, that's still us spending time thinking of ourselves. It doesn't matter if we're thinking good or bad things. So even if we are the ones in our own way of like stopping us from doing what we want to achieve, or getting done what we want to get done, or we're in our own way in front of our goals, that's still our ego. That's in our own way, because we think we're so important that we need to think about how terrible we are. Like, in reality, why are we even thinking of ourselves that much? Like, we don't need to. Sorry, we don't need to. And I've definitely been there. Like, I've so been there. I've been, my lowest of lows was me wanting to end my life and daydreaming about how I would end my life. Like, that was my lowest low. And so I get it. Like, you know, it's a lot easier to think about how terrible we are, or how much we don't deserve something. It's so much easier to do that than to do, you know, literally anything else. So yeah, I also wanted to say that. So our ego has like a lot of power and control, I think, over us, and over like most of us, I think all of us. Like I said before, unless you're Buddha or Jesus Christ himself, like, girl, there's no killing our ego. And it's more understanding it and having the self-awareness. It's the self-awareness that's going to protect us and protect our intentions, because at the end of the day, if you are good intentioned and you want the best for people, and you're kind, and you care about your values and collective liberation, like, if you know you're well intentioned, then it's simply about having the self-awareness of, where does my ego actually live? Like, where does my ego play out its fantasy or its versions of things? Like, what is my ego? What does it look like? How does it act? What does it usually love to do? What does it love to think about? What does it love to talk about? What does it love to look like? Right? Like, I think the self-awareness of our ego is more important than, you know, what it's actually doing. Because once you're self-aware, then you start to just think about it more. Like, you know, let's say, what does my ego love to do? My ego loves to ask myself questions and like answer it as if I'm like being interviewed by someone else. I don't know. I talk to myself sometimes, as you can see, like by me like talking to myself right now, kind of. I talk to myself, and that's something that my ego loves to do. My ego loves to like ask myself questions and then answer it as if like I'm being asked a question, like I'm being interviewed or something. So anyways, I think just having the self-awareness of like what our egos looks like and what our ego likes to do, I think having that self-awareness is the most important thing, because with that self-awareness we can then we can act accordingly, you know, once we have that self-awareness. And once we have it, we're just building on top of that same self-awareness as we grow and change and develop throughout our lives. we're just building on that same awareness of our ego. Because if you can see the ego, you can see the shadow, then it can't scare you. Like, it can't jump out at you and like, boo, like, here, I bet you didn't see me coming. No, actually I did. Actually, I did see you coming, and thank you for mentioning that, because now I know that you think that I didn't see you coming, but I actually did, so booyah, you know? Yeah, I think that just the self-awareness part is the biggest thing, and knowing ourselves so that we can act better and do better and be better for ourselves and others, you know? Okay, my camera died, so for you guys that were watching, this is just going to be visual from now on, because I'm not waiting to charge this thing. Like, my camera always loves to die, so fuck that. But as artists, kill that shit, bro. Kill that ego. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, I honestly think that most artists need to get over themselves. Get over yourself, get over ourselves. We need to get over it. Like, girl, we need to get over the ego, because at this point it's dire. Things are dire. Things are important. Like, things need to start moving. If we want liberation for all, if we want abolition for all, we need to chop. Like, we need to chop. And artists, like, we have the ability to envision things. We have the ability to create new worlds of our own choosing. And we all know this. Life imitates art, imitates life. So let's make art that life can imitate. And let's do this. Like for fucking real. We need to get over ourselves, and we need to have some self-awareness, get over our ego, and start planning for the future, planning for what comes ahead. And this is our responsibility as artists, because we have the power to influence. We have the power to influence and to give ideas of what a new world can look like. Like, we have the ability to create new worlds and show others our new worlds and our new creations, so that they can jump on board, jump on the train, and then we can all go there together. And so I think this episode is honestly going to be all over the place. Stop honking. This episode is honestly going to be all over the place. It's giving, but like, it's giving, I don't care. Because let's do it. I don't know. Let's get on the train, guys. No, I'm kidding. So one of the ways that I mentioned in my workshop that I think is a good way to oh my god, a bumblebee. One of the ways that I mentioned in the Artist as Prophets workshop that I think is like a good small way to start kind of separating ourselves from like artists. I feel like most times artists are really viewed as creators, and it's true. Like, yes, we are creating, that makes us creators, but I think to identify as a creator is a little ego-centered, because look, the creator, like I feel like to be a creator you need to, be God or something, be the universe. I feel like that's such a big title to give artists. Like, as artists, we are creators. Like, yes, we are creators, but that's like a really big like ego. And maybe that's why YouTubers kind of went a little crazy, because they were all being called content creators, or like they would identify as creators. Maybe that's why, guys, not to be like a little woo-woo insane, but like to identify as a creator is just like a really big responsibility and word and role that is ego-centered. And I think if creativity is a channel, if creativity is a life force, a channel that we are all connected to, then we're not creators, we're just transmitters. We're transmitters. So shifting from being a creator to being a transmitter of ideas, of emotions, of passions, of we're transmitting what we reached out into the channel of creativity. We reached out, we pulled it down, and now we're sharing it with others. We're making it into a tangible experience that can be shared with others. We're transmitting that energy that was once abstract into something tangible. So I think it's good to reframe from being creators to being transmitters. So we're not just artists, guys. We're transmitting, guys. Okay? That's another thing that I really wanted to talk about in this episode. And that's okay. Police, crazy. I hate these fucking guys. Okay. That's really just the bulk of like what I wanted to talk about. That's the bulk of like what I wanted to talk about really in this episode. And then I also want to talk about my week for a little bit, guys. I want to talk about my week. I wanted to talk about actually not even my week, just yesterday. Yesterday I went to I am a filmmaker, like I mentioned, guys, and last week I wrapped my biggest film project of my life thus far to date. We shot for like 6 days. It was like really intense, and it was kind of it was intense. It was a lot, and I loved it. I think it went really well, but it was a lot, and so I was like kind of recovering from that, and that's why I like haven't posted in a minute. That's why. So I just wanted to say that also, and I will talk more about that next time in the next episode, I think, because it's like a lot to talk about. It's a lot to unpack, and there's a lot of lessons that I want to share also about that. So I'll talk more about that in the next episode. But that's to say that like I was like kind of meditating, like this year I'm the type of person, like I'm somebody, by the way, nice to meet you, I'm someone who likes to meditate often. This year so far, I would say I was meditating like almost every day for the most part, like maybe 95% of the days up until April, like end of April, early May. I think I was meditating every single day up until like mid-April. Yeah, mid-April is when I think I stopped meditating because I just got so busy with my film. And then I like was meditating like a few days before I shot, and then when I shot like in the middle of May. So I was like meditating like on some of my shooting days, and then some of the days I didn't meditate. But since I shot and a couple weeks before I shot, I like was not meditating. So that's like kind of the longest time I went without meditating, which is like a couple weeks, which is like not bad at all, because I meditated for like months, I think, in a row for the most part. Like almost every single day I meditated from January to like April, right? So that's pretty good. But I am somebody, like I started meditating in 2021, and I did have like some years where for the most part since 2021 I've been kind of like pretty consistent with meditation. And this year, like, I really wanted to, like, meditate every single day. Like, obviously, that's kind of unrealistic for, like, a 23-year-old to, like, meditate every single day. I am pretty young, but, yeah, I definitely notice the difference between when I meditate and when I don't meditate. I definitely, like, actually notice a huge difference for myself, only speaking for myself, of course. So, yeah, I haven't meditated since probably sometime in like last week or the week before, though all the days are blending together. I shot like 2 weeks ago, not even last week. So yeah, I haven't meditated since like one of the days that I shot for sure. And so yesterday, someone in my community, Amuna, this lovely soul being, they were holding a meditation, or they are holding a meditation like series. And so they did, it was like an abolitionist meditation series, I believe, and they're still doing it. So I'm going to plug this person, man. I don't know how, since this is a podcast, but Amuna, okay? Just remember. They're doing like a abolition meditation series, and I went yesterday because I was like, you know what, like sometimes, especially like in like this kind of practice, it's kind of hard to like meditate by yourself all the time, every single day, you know? Because when I meditate, like when I first started meditating, I was using the apps Headspace, Balance. They're both really good meditation apps that I was using to meditate. And then after like a year or two, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna meditate by myself, because at this point there's nothing that they're gonna tell me that I don't already know. So, and I like to meditate by myself. I think it's a nice practice for myself to do it by myself, and I'm pretty good. So the past like 1 or 2 years, I would say I would be meditating by myself. And when you meditate by yourself, I think it's just hard to like be super consistent. And also like there were like a couple weeks this year where I was meditating every single day, but I wasn't clearing my mind, you know? So I feel like that's a difference. And sometimes it's nice to relinquish that responsibility of like, I'm gonna guide myself through meditation. I think it's nice. And my partner was like, I'm going to this meditation tomorrow, and when I heard about it from Amuna themselves, I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, and so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go, of course. So I went to their meditation yesterday, and I haven't been guided. Like, I did my own guided meditation workshop, so I haven't been guided in a meditation in a minute, actually. In a minute. It's been a minute. So that was like a good experience, I think, for me. It like showed me some stuff. It taught me some stuff about myself, and also my ego. I definitely thought about her. My ego is definitely a she, her, guys. I thought about her for sure during the meditation, and I had a lot of other revelations as well. I know with meditation you're really supposed to clear your mind, and I was able to clear my mind and be very present with my thoughts, but I also leaned into my thoughts at certain points as well, because yeah, man, I don't know, sometimes I think it is important to lean into those thoughts of like what comes up naturally for you before clearing it aside and focusing on your breath again. So I definitely did indulge in my thoughts yesterday. It was an hour-long meditation or something. It was broken up into 2 parts, which was really nice. But when Amuna first did the grounding, it was the first, like, I think 20 minutes probably of grounding meditation. When we first grounded in, the first thing that I clocked, like the first thing that I noticed was my heartbeat. Not in my chest, because it wasn't like it was like a heavy heartbeat. So it wasn't in my chest. It was actually in my head, the back of my head, the contact spot from my head and the ground. I felt my heartbeat. And I don't think I ever felt my heartbeat really from my head before. So that was interesting. I felt my heartbeat on my head, and as well as my pelvis, which I feel that often. The second everyone went quiet and we started to ground, I felt it in my head. And I also was like very aware of like the sounds in the room, I feel like I was like kind of hearing things. Like I heard I saw in the space before we sat down for the meditation, I saw like a singing bowl, I saw a sound like fork, and I thought someone had dinged the sound fork because I heard it in the meditation. Then I opened my eyes, I peeked my eyes open, and I did not see anyone doing any sound frequency, anything. So it was like really curious that I heard this sound frequency, this quiet sound frequency, from what it feels like was somewhere to the side of the room or outside the window. Like I feel like I heard it. And I was also like kind of hearing things and like kind of in tune with my intuition in a way that my intuition has never been, or like yesterday was the loudest my intuition has been in probably the whole week. I can't say longer for a week because I don't know if I remember, but probably for that whole week, even 2 weeks, my intuition was really loud yesterday. So that was really interesting. And I'm going to also describe a vision that I had yesterday. And I want to end this podcast off with this vision that I had yesterday during the meditation. And you might like think to yourself, what do you mean vision? Like, what do you mean by that? No, but not to like seem too, ungrounded, like not to seem crazy, for lack of a better word, but I do feel like I get visions, guys. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm hopefully talking to the spiritual people in my community right now, so hopefully it's like not that crazy to say that I get visions. I know people who get visions, and I know people who, like, for me, most of my visions come from dreams, but they come from dreams that I remember when I'm awake. Not necessarily like, sometimes it's like I'm dreaming and I get a vision in my dream, but usually the visions that I get in my dreams, they don't play out until like in like real life, they don't play out until like a while later. And this has been happening to me since I was probably like 13. I know some people have been getting like visions and they have these like experiences since they were like really, really young, like 5 or something. The first time I remember getting a vision, I was like around probably like a little younger than 13, like 12, 11, I think like 11, 12. Those were my first experiences having like visions, and those visions were like dreams that I had that would come true. And they were really mundane dreams. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. Like, I know some people who have similar experiences of visions, like they can foresee like huge events happening in their life or people close to them's lives. For me, when I was younger, the first visions that I got were really, really mundane, like visions of me in a classroom where people are saying some things, and then a couple months later, maybe even a year later, like it felt like they would come true so long after. But yeah, like a year later it would come true. And I've had a lot of visions where I've like seen people that in my dreams that I've never met, and then a few years later I meet them, or I get a deja vu moment. I get a moment where I'm like, this feels like a dream, and then I see someone new that I've never interacted before, and I'm like, I've seen you before in my dream, and that's like a confirmation to me that like something, like a vision of a vision, right? So I feel like since I was 11, 12, I've been getting these visions from my dreams, and I never thought much of them until it started to happen more and more and more throughout high school. And then when I moved here to Montreal a couple years ago, I had a vision that was so scary accurate, like so accurate. It actually scared me so much that I was crying. Like, I started to bawl my eyes out with my sister who was there. And my sister who was there, she was kind of like, she wasn't like gaslighting me, but she was kind of like everyone, like, this happens to everyone, like, you're not special. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, what's happening to me? I'm like, that's so Raven. And she was like, sorry girl, like, this happens to everyone, because I was a girl at the time, so it's fine. She was like, so she was like, sorry girl, like, this happens to everyone, like, you're not special, like, this happens to me, this happens to, like, everyone, like, you're not special. And that kind of calmed me down, because I was crying, so she did, like, calm me down in that moment. But I was also like, girl, like, not you telling me to, like, calm down, basically, like, it's not that serious. She was basically saying to me, it's not that serious. And I'm like, okay girl. But I was really scared, so I get why she was like, just calm down, it's not that serious, because it's true, like, it's not that big a deal. I was really, really scared because it was like a really intense vision that I had at that time. And then since then I haven't been that scared. So, like, I do get scared, like, little bits and pieces here and there, because I've also had I have, like, it runs in my family, like, really intense mental health issues, other health issues as well, but mental health issues runs in my family, and I've had experiences of psychosis, for example. So I do, like, get a little bit scared sometimes. But anyways, this isn't about that. This is about this vision that I had yesterday. Wow, me saying this is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then I proceed to talk about it for like 20 minutes. So yesterday I had a vision, and my confirmation of the vision was the fact that I saw someone yesterday that I saw in a dream. So that was my confirmation for this vision. But I'm gonna tell you the vision because it's way far more simpler and makes a lot of sense, I think, actually. So in the meditation, Amuna was saying all these beautiful words, and one of the things that they said was that all of our hearts are connected. All of our hearts are connected. And this isn't the first time I heard of this, of course. Like, this isn't the first time I heard that. But for some reason, I had such a clear vision in my head of how exactly our hearts are connected, because it made me think about how the first thing I felt when I put my head on the ground for the meditation, the first thing I felt was my heartbeat from my head, not from my chest, from my head. And then I felt it later on from my pelvis. So when Amuna said all of our hearts are connected, we're all connected, I had this vision of exactly how we're all connected. And let me explain it, because the vision was very quick and fast, but the explanation of it won't be, okay? So you know trees, right? Trees, if you didn't know, trees can communicate with each other. Trees communicate with other trees in its community, along with, fungus, mushrooms, plants. Trees can tell whether a human or even a tiny animal miles away is, like, stepping on the ground close to them, simply by the root system. Trees have all these huge roots that go underground and that connect these trees to other trees and to other plants and to all the soil and to all the fungus. Like, it's a whole system. These trees are connected to every single living thing in the forest. And trees can feel whether a human or an animal steps in their radius of, like, what they are able to feel. They can tell a human is walking towards them or walking away from them. They can tell animals in the area, they sense it, they feel it. And they also communicate with the other trees nearby through this root system, okay? Which is beautiful. Like, let's just take that in for a second. Like, that is beautiful, that trees have all this capacity to feel and to know and to communicate simply by their roots. And there's no surprise, especially now. I feel like with science, so many scientific things are being proven that spiritual people have been talking about for centuries. It feels like spiritual people all the way back from Sahatana Dharma, from Hinduism, have been saying things that are only now being confirmed by scientists as true and as real. So it's no surprise that like spirituality has a lot of bone and like has a lot of truth in it. And so as above, so below, right? Wrong. That's actually a mistranslation. The actual translation of this like phrase that we all know, as above, so below, the actual closest English translation of this originally Arabic quote and phrase, the closest English translation is, the above is of the below, and the below is of the above, which is different than as above, so below is kind of insinuating like a mirror, and what is above, or the above is of the below and the below is of the above, is saying that they are made of the same things. Like what the above is, that's what the below is made of, and what the below is, that's what the above is made of. They are made of the same things, so they are the same. And this can go for, God and humans. This can also go for like nature and humans. This is for everyone and everything, I think, because there are so many like identical things from nature and humans. For example, like everything scientific, there is a replica of that image in nature. Everything scientific about our bodies, our cells, how we reproduce, all these things, there is an exact replica in nature that naturally exists. I think that's a beautiful example of what is above, or the above is of the below, and the below is of the above. And so to bring that into like what I'm talking about right now, roots, tree roots, or any roots, plants roots, but I'm talking about trees. So tree roots. What do tree roots look like? Tree roots look exactly like lightning bolts. They look exactly the same, guys. Tree roots and lightning bolts. And tree roots also looks like a lot of other things, like our veins in our bodies, or veins in general, period. A lot of animals have veins, right? But veins in our bodies, in animal bodies. Tree roots also looks like the, neuron, whatever things in our brains. I don't know too much about that, but my partner mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, that too. Okay. But tree roots, like, to me, the root of, like, animals and trees, like, that is how, like, they're literally called roots. It's how plants and trees root itself into the ground. It's its connection to the ground. It's its connection to life force. You pull out the roots, you're pulling out the life force. That is, like, a plant's connection to its life force is literally the roots. And back to lightning bolts, like lightning bolts look like roots. And what is lightning? Lightning is energy. Lightning is a bolt of energy, right? And as humans, we have energetic fields. We have energy fields. Yeah, this is like a scientific thing. We all have energy fields. We're all made up of energy, right? The atoms in our body, like, blah, they have energy, whatever. I'm not a science girl, okay? What in our body looks like tree roots looks like lightning bolts. Our veins run all throughout our body. What are the veins connected to? They're connected to our heart. Our heart pumps blood all throughout our body through these veins. And our heart is our life force. Roots are the life force of plants and trees, and our heart, our veins, our blood is the life force for us. So when Amuna said our hearts are all connected, I visually got a vision of my heart and my veins, our heart and our veins, pumping, like the heart pumping the blood all throughout our body, from our heads to our feet going into the ground, just like how trees feel other trees and animals in its surrounding areas through its roots. We as humans are also feel the people around us and the living beings around us through energy. But how do we feel it? We feel it through our roots, through our heart that pumps the blood through our veins, that take us into the ground. When we're standing on the ground, we feel grounded more than when we're, sitting on a chair or lying on something. When our feet are on the ground, planted on the ground, is when we feel the most grounded. So for me, visually, when Amuna said that, I saw our hearts pumping blood throughout our veins all the way down to our feet going in the ground, and us receiving that energetic connection into the ground and into how we feel others, right? I mean, our veins are also in our fingertips. We can put our fingers on other people and feel their pulse from their arms. But even without us thinking, like trees do not think. Trees do not have to think, what is this tree thinking? What is this fungus thinking? Where is this animal? The tree is not thinking that with its head, with its logical head. It just knows. It just feels. It just is. Same with us. Before we see or hear anything, we feel. And we're not thinking every single moment of every day. We're not thinking what we're feeling. We're just feeling it. So yes, our hearts are all connected, not logically, but feeling through sense. We feel it. Just like our heart pumps blood all throughout our veins without us thinking about it. We feel it. That is how I visualize how our hearts are all connected through the sense of through energy. This is something that we already know. This is already scientifically proven that we feel people's energies. But how do we feel people's energies? This is what I think. This is what makes sense to me. We feel it through our veins and our blood and our hearts that go into the ground, and from the ground connects us to the other people in our community, the other people that surround us. Our hearts to our veins, into the ground, into the other people around us. And that's how we're connected to our community. From our hearts into the ground, into each other. Hi, this is Editing Flora here. I also just wanted to say I was very taken by the visual of our veins pumping blood that goes to the ground, and that's how we're connected to each other, just like how trees are, the roots go into the ground. But now that I'm really, really sitting with it and thinking of this, and also this is something that I was also told by my high school drama teacher. Shout out Miss Jack. I think the difference between us and trees is that trees, like, their roots only go into the ground, and of course also the opposite of into the ground, which is up to the sky, the branches going up upwards into the sky. I think with humans, though, our veins go everywhere, right? Like I was saying, our veins even go to our little fingertips, and we can feel sometimes our pulse in our fingertips and in other people's fingertips. So our veins really go all throughout our body, and we are connected through people, not just through the ground. We're connected to earth through the ground, but we're connected to everyone through all of our senses in the body. So just like how when you're fighting with someone or we're in an argument with someone and they point at you, and all of a sudden you're 10 times more activated because they're pointing at you as they're raising their voice to yell or to whatever, speak passionately as some people do. Just with that one point alone in your direction, you're all of a sudden way more activated because their energy is literally, quite literally pointing towards you, and it's like they are streamlining their energy towards you to get you more activated, to get you more triggered. So it's not just in our feet, it's also in our hands, it's in our entire bodies. And you know, that's why it's good practice to not point at people. I think that's one of the manners, like in like this world where we teach our children manners or whatever. I think that's the one thing that is actually valid, is not to point at people, because it can be not only triggering, but like, damn girl, why do you have to feel the need to like point at me in order to get your point across? It's very like accusatory and uncomfortable. Like, it's just uncomfortable at the end of the day. Like, forget the semantics, it's just plain uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable when we have someone like point directly at us. It's so uncomfortable and triggering. Literally ask The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, my guilty pleasure show. Like, whenever anyone points at someone on that show, it's like all hell is about to break loose. Come on, man, like, we know better. Yeah, that's the vision that I had. So I wanted to share that because I was like, what the fuck, this makes so much sense, that trees are connected to each other through their roots. So are we are also connected to each other through our roots. I just think it makes a lot of sense, guys. I don't know. I think it makes a lot of sense. So that's the vision that I had, and it was like such a quick vision and realization too. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to share this. So that's really it. Like, I hope it didn't sound too silly. So yeah, that's really it. That's like what I wanted to share today. Like, that's everything I wanted to share today, and it's been a minute, so I'm gonna let you guys go now. I hope it wasn't like whatever, that's my ego talking. I'm gonna just stop. I hope you got something from it or just enjoyed hearing me. I don't know. Love you guys. I really, 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 really truly love and appreciate you for being here, especially if you're like here like 1 hour in, girl. Like, you're doing something. You're doing something with that. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I'm gonna open a Patreon soon because I want to share more about like what I've been working on, the film that I've been working on. I want to share like pictures and early drafts of the script and all these things. So look forward to that. I will be opening a Patreon soon for that, and also probably for more little rambling things that I'm going to put on there. So again, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I love you. And I hope you have a beautiful day. And I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.